So I don't think it's, as a woman, I know full well it weren't ingrained in me to hate men, but as you grow up and you see them act a certain way, then you're going to have an opinion of them. I wouldn't go swimming. I wouldn't go swimming in Australia. Even if there was one shark attack, I wouldn't go near it because I know the consequences. But yeah, as women, we're expected to still trust men that hurt us.
Well, what? Okay.
Oh wow.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Like what you said. What do you see that men do that's so bad?
Well, first of all, I said about the domestic violence, and then I think if you look at like,
women do it too.
No,
so,
of course,
yeah.
but men ain't dying at the same rates. So,
well, they can't.
Who's to say?
What do you mean? Who's to say?
I think everything that we see is what's given to us as facts.
Right.
We can't take that as gospel.
Do you know any men that have died from
for
domestic violence?
Male suicide is one of the biggest indicators of male suicide is relationship conflict or breakup. So, you know, maybe it's not being logged as domestic violence, but there is definitely abuse going the other way, and that's a significant part of male suicide.
And more women hit men one-sided than men hit women one-sided.
I struggle. I do struggle with this. Like on the websites that I've seen, like women are arrested more for domestic violence than men, even though they suffer more. And on like when in 2020, when 110 women died that year because of at the hands of male, 50% of those deaths were overkill, which means that they killed them. There was like brutally killing them long before that, long after they were dead.
110 in London.
No, in the UK.
In the UK. That's really not a lot.
One every 3 days. You don't think that's
110 for the whole year?
So say for
the whole year?
Yeah, from the whole year. So from then to now. So say at the
what percentage of deaths is that? That's got to be less than 1%.
Do you honestly think that a woman dying every 3 to 4 days is not a lot?
I don't think it's like a pressing, like if it's not one of the number.
How do you not?
Because it's not one of the number one ways people are dying here. So like if we're gonna talk about if that's the big issue, like then we should maybe put obesity.
Why is it always fat people when that alcohol is a drug and it's so normalized?
We could do alcoholism.
But why is the default always fat?
Why is the default always fat? It could be alcoholism too.
Because the stuff that more people die. What Pearl's trying to say is more people die each year from self-inflicted things than something that's been inflicted on somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense, but it doesn't excuse it. Do you see what I mean? So say when
I wouldn't excuse it. I don't believe anyone should.
It's just putting it into context.
Yeah.
If you take a number like 110 out of a country with like 60 million people and try and make the case
that's wild.
Because you're trying to generalize something about men.
But
and so if you're gonna make a generalization about men, I want to see, is this prevalent among men? Is this really common? And when you said 110, I'm like, well, okay, the UK is very populated. That doesn't sound like a lot of people. And when you put it into context,
but if you put it into context,
I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's right.
I'm not saying you do, but then if you put it into context, the same amount of women have died this year, right? So it's one every 3 to 4 days. So say from 2020, 2021, 2022, if you multiply 110, that's 330. Yeah, that's close to a year. So out of 3 years, there was 1 year where a woman was dying every day. That's mad. When you put it like that, is that not mad?
I don't think it's okay, but if I had to guess, I would think that things like car crashes and obesity would probably be higher.
But they're self-inflicted, so that's on them. I could walk down the street and be murdered by a man, and what did I do to deserve that?
Why does it have to be a man? You could be murdered.
But I was talking about that statistic. When we're talking about domestic violence, it's men killing women.
But my point is, why would I make a generalization about men when it's not a huge percentage of people that are dying?
Oh, okay.
At the hands of men, like from domestic violence.
I think that's probably just a difference in opinion, because I think 1 every 3 to 4 days is 2 a week. I think that's wild.
I mean, you can manipulate statistics to make them sound like it's a lot more prevalent than it is, but. Yeah. But when you look at how many people, if I Googled right now how many people are in the UK,
it's like 60 million.
Yeah, 60 million people in the UK.
But
110, that's not.
That's cool. But then when you put it down to 1 to every 3 to 4 days, that doesn't. And like I said about 1 like a year, and that would have been just women. But this is what I'm saying. Get off this. But this is what I'm saying. This is why, because there's a consequence for your actions. So as men, if you're going to enable other men and whatnot, then it's a repercussion of your
How do men
actions.
enable other men? We just saw in a clip where when people were when he was attacking a woman in public, people rushed to her defense. How was that enabling?
Well, the thing is, I understand that video. The video is terrible, but that's just one incident. You could film that tomorrow, and there could be a different reaction. Because I personally have seen 3 incidences of domestic violence with a woman being attacked, and I haven't seen any. I was the one that went to see them. It was me. So I know full well that happens. So I'm not shocked by that video at all, because I don't know what people expect.
Do you feel like it's equal? Like people protect the genders equally?
No. I do see what the problem with men, but in terms of how they're treated in society, but a lot of it, I dare to say that the misandry is almost a bit of a pity party. Like if you ask someone who's 50 plus about this, they ain't got a clue what you're talking about. But they've, for the last 50 years, seen women go through this, and this, and they're probably like, well, of course.
I want to go.
But what did you guys think of that clip? So I want to start with Alex, because you were there. What were you thinking yesterday?
I would say I was just thinking she's just very, very misinformed, very ignorant, and she has this she's obviously been highly influenced by extremist groups, and so all her points were just kind of in that line of just like, I know someone who experienced this, therefore it's an issue for society. I didn't like how she dismissed men's issues, because I thought that was very kind of she kind of threw herself under the bus there, where if you claim you care about equality and women's rights and then say men's rights, misandry is a pity party, is kind of like extremely, extremely ignorant. So yeah.
What did you think of the clip?
In my opinion, I feel like she's been through a lot of things, because for her to talk like that, she has experienced a lot of things when it comes to men. So that's why I can't judge her what she's saying. You know what I'm saying? Because I from my experience, I've been around a lot of people when they tell me their stories could be about a guy or female, but the way they go into it, I deeply listen to it so hard, and I can just tell that they've been going through a lot. So for her to talk like that, I can't judge, because she's hurting, and I can just hear in her voice she's hurting. You know what I mean? So that's why I ain't judging that.
She looked like she wanted to cry on me.
100%.
Felt bad when she was speaking. For real.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'm sure she was pretty hurt. Like, you can actually tell that she's gone through some sort of rough experience. However, I, maybe like Alex, think that she's those kind of people that would manipulate the information for you to take the message the way she wants you to have it. Does that make sense? And that is where you lose that, understanding, because the statistics went from every other day for every 3 days, and then 1 year, and then 3 years. It's like taking the same issue and then molding it to favor your point of view. So that is not fair, because it has to be objective. Like, I don't know. That's how I feel about it. But it's clearly that she's gone through some rough experiences.
Can I say something? I think, obviously, she just represents some of the biggest problems that we have nowadays. It's just where people are talking without having the capacity to be talking on the topics they're talking about. That's why she misused statistics. That's why she didn't quite make a coherent argument. However, the sentiment and the words that she's trying to say, I fully sympathize. And I actually kind of agree with what she's saying. Yes, there's domestic violence towards men. Yes. But traditionally, culturally, socially, politically, economically, everythingly, women tend to kind of be the ones that are on the losing side. And I say that not just from my own experience. I say that from my own research into this. I say that from my own life experiences, seeing other people.
How?
Yeah, on the losing side of the topics that she's talking about, of course. Think about it. Even in Latin America, for example, in Africa, in Asia, there's a lot of women that die in the hands of men. And that, even though that's outside of Europe and the world that we live in, that's just another example of how actually the world is somewhat like...
Can we stick to the West?
Even in the West, in the West is the same thing. They're like, if I'm not gonna lie, I bet you that if I walk, even let's say just London, if I walk around London and I ask a few girls, like, has a man ever slapped you? A lot of them will say yes.
How do you know that?
Oh, because I already done
How
it.
do you know that? How do you know they didn't deserve to be slapped though?
That's not even, and that's again the deserving of to slap somebody deserves to be slapped. That's subjective again.
Most abuse is mutual, meaning both parties are hitting each other. So a lot of girls will hit guys often first, and then claim and cry abuse when he hits back, but you hit him first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And most, so they looked at abusive situations, and the ones that are one-sided, which means one party's hitting the other and the other is not returning. Women are more likely to do that than men.
Okay. I understand that completely. I've been in that situation before. Of course, I hit back because I'm not here to take slaps for no reason, right? But it still remains like the fact that even for, and this goes to your question, should women fear men, right? A man is way stronger than a woman. Do you get? So why are you even hitting in the first place? You shouldn't. And yet they do are more rapes than women do. And some, yes, cry victim, and some of them can cause a situation. But let's not run away from the fact that there's a lot of women that are actually victims to the toxic masculinity that is out there.
Can I just say something?
Toxic masculine. Go ahead, Aunty.
Bullshit.
Word.
That's what I can say.
Kind of smart.
As somebody that's been in an abusive relationship, bullshit. What she's saying, bullshit. As far as I'm concerned, she's going from one side. She's going from one side. If you go onto the internet and you look for women who have been abused, you're going to get one set of figures. What about the men that have been abused? There's 100%. Men out there that have been abused, that are being abused. There was I think there was a program, I think I mentioned it on one of Sarah's shows. There was a guy and he almost lost his life through being with his partner. How many men suffer in silence? A woman will go out there and she will slap a man. Right? And if the man goes and calls the police, is the police going to come and arrest him and take him? Is that going down as a statistic? And I'm not even defending the man because as far as I'm concerned, no one deserves to get hit, but you've got to be fair about it. A woman will turn around, slap a man. And I'm talking like I've seen it happen. I know if it happened. A woman will turn around, slap a man, call the police. If the man slaps her back, and they will take the man.
Absolutely.
How many men out there are getting slapped by women and that will call the police and say, this woman slapped me? How many men are going out? Women are so quick to easy and turn around and say, oh, I've been abused. How is it for a man? If that society would accept that men get abused, they will speak up more and then you'll see the statistics change. So as far as I'm concerned, all that talk about we should fear men and whatever, I've been battered by a man. I do not fear men because that is a rare occasion. That is a rare occasion. That is rare. I'm not going to go around and say, oh, because I got abused, all women out there are getting abused, because I know that men get abused out there and it's not publicized. And if there were statistics for men, and I'm not defending anybody getting abused, but you've got to be fair about it. And as far as I'm concerned, she don't even look like she's suffered. She look like she's been around people, they've fed her this, go on the internet. Sometimes you need to turn off the internet and use your brain. And all she's doing is getting her information from the internet and she looks traumatized. Go and get counseling, girl, or something like that. She reminds me, and just going by the way she looks, I don't care whether people hate me, she looks like a plain, bitter, feminist lesbian. Nothing about her says, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Nothing about her says feminine. Nothing about her says, oh, this is what's going on. She just looks like she's on one agenda and that's the way she was going. So I'm getting tired of hearing that, oh, this is what happens to women. I want to hear what happens to the men, because the men out there are suffering in silence. Yes. And it's because of society that men do not speak up. Yeah. Men do not speak up because they're so busy feeling fearful that they're going to get called a beta. Oh, how can you let that woman slap you? Or how can you let that woman stab you up? There's men out there suffering, but because of society, they're not saying nothing. So if they're going to turn around and say, oh, what she's saying is right, oh, we should fear men, bullshit.
100%.
Well, Auntie, thank
Bars.
you.
I 100% agree with Auntie.
Bars.